Hearing the system's voice, a faint, involuntary smile touched my lips. Carter saw it. His jaw clenched tight, and he forcefully tilted my chin up, making me look at him. You're smiling? You just killed our child and you're smiling? What is this, Nora? Is this your sick way of punishing me? How could it be? I thought tiredly. This was just the only ending left for us. You're overthinking it, Mr. Kensington, I whispered, my throat dry. Mia didn't sign off on this pregnancy. Ergo, the child couldn't exist. Mr. Kensington? You're calling me Mr. Kensington now? You've called me Carter since we were 16. Nora, what kind of game are you playing? I was too hollowed out to field his questions. Biting the inside of my cheek to ride out the dull cramping in my abdomen, I gently but firmly pushed his hands away. I just had surgery. Step back, Carter. You don't want to carry the smell of blood back to the house. It might upset Mia. He opened his mouth to snap back, but his eyes suddenly darted past me, locking onto the neckline of a nurse passing by the doorway. Around her neck hung the Star of the Atlantic, a breathtaking custom blue sapphire. It was the piece Carter had bought at auction for our first anniversary, the one he had stayed up nights resetting into a pendant himself. I used to treat that necklace like a holy relic. I kept it in a velvet vault, only daring to wear it at the most exclusive galas. But I didn't like it anymore. Just like I didn't like Carter anymore. And just like I no longer liked the children we had made together. Carter's eyes went bloodshot. He looked around the clinic and suddenly realized the nurses and receptionists were wearing familiar things. My diamond studs. The Cartier tennis bracelet. The vintage hairpins. He realized my room at the estate had been systematically stripped of every gift he had ever given me. His hands began to shake. He stepped out into the hall, practically ripped the sapphire off the terrified nurse and stormed back in, dangling it in front of my face. I made this for you. I stayed awake for 3 days drafting the goddamn bezel. And you just... I blinked slowly, sifting through the foggy memories. I think you're right. Good memory. All the blood rushed out of Carter's face, leaving him ash-white. I was about to ask him to leave when rapid footsteps echoed in the hall. My eldest son, Noah, burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. But the moment his eyes met my pale, exhausted face, he flinched, instinctively taking a step back. He lowered his voice, dropping it into a harsh, deliberate whisper. Dad, Auntie Mia is pregnant. I'm going to have a little sister. Carter's eyebrows shot up. A wave of uncontrollable joy washed over his face. This was what he had been waiting for, a child with a woman he truly loved. I sat there on the sterile bed, quietly watching the two of them share their profound, beautiful moment. Carter cleared his throat, suddenly looking uncomfortable, his voice dropping into a gentle cadence. Nora, Mia is... Before he could finish the sentence, I reached behind my neck and unclasped a cheap string of plastic beads I had worn every day for 4 years. I held it up toward Noah. Here. I'm giving this back to you, I said, my voice completely flat. And I'll take mine back. Noah's hand instinctively flew to his chest, clutching the silver St. Jude medallion hidden under his shirt. His voice trembled. What do you want that for? I prayed for that medal. I don't want you to have it anymore. When Noah was 5, he contracted a severe bacterial infection that nearly stopped his heart. I had never been a religious woman, but I drove to a remote monastery in the mountains, walking the last 3 miles on my knees until they bled, just to get that medallion blessed for him. The monks told me it would ward off evil. When I put it around his little neck, he held it like it was treasure. He had touched my bruised knees with his little hands, asking, "Does it hurt, Mommy? Noah will blow on it to make it better." Then he had spent an hour stringing together those cheap plastic beads to make me a necklace in return. I had worn that plastic trash like it was worth more than the crown jewels. Now, looking at it, it just looked like exactly what it was. Cheap. Worthless. Seeing my icy expression, Noah's face burned with a mix of shame and sudden, defensive anger. He slapped my hand away, sending the plastic beads clattering to the linoleum floor. Yanking the silver chain off his own neck, he threw the St. Jude medal at my feet. Who cares? Auntie Mia is getting me a custom platinum one anyway. I didn't even want to wear your stupid necklace anymore. I didn't say a word. I just leaned over the edge of the bed to pick up the silver medal. Before my fingers could brush the metal, Carter's expensive leather shoe slammed down on it. He loomed over me, his eyes dark and frigid. First you kill the baby. Then you give away my jewelry. Now you're terrorizing a little boy for his good luck charm. His lip curled into a sneer. Do you honestly think playing the heartless, broken wife is going to make me kick me out? Don't hold your breath, Nora. The voice rang in my head again. Alert, host. The male and female leads must be physically present at the moment of your death, otherwise the final objective will fail. As the villainous ex-wife, your plot completion is currently at 99%. System rating, S tier. You are 1 step away from freedom. I managed a faint, tired smile. Looking back, the way I had completed these villainous tasks was deeply ironic. Even now, they genuinely believed I was a manipulative monster. When I snatched a cookie out of Noah's hand because Mia gave it to him, I was branded a jealous, bitter woman who couldn't stand seeing another woman love her son. No one believed me when I screamed that the cookie had peanut butter in it, and Noah was deathly allergic. Later, when I caught Mia having secret dinners with the CEO of Carter's biggest rival and tried to physically block her from entering Carter's RD server room, I was accused of being insecure, terrified that her brilliance would outshine mine. Carter and Noah trusted her blindly. Absolutely. Seeing my silence, Carter assumed he had hit the nail on the head. His anger flared again. You really hate me that much, don't you? Enough to butcher your own flesh and blood. He leaned in closer. Since you're so repulsed by the idea of being a mother, I'll do you a favor. I'm having the doctors tie your tubes before you leave this building. The father and son walked out together, leaving me to finally exhale. I was driven back to the estate and fell into a dead sleep. The next morning, the estate manager, Carson, woke me by banging on my door. It was time for the extraction. Martha, the head housekeeper who had been with me for years, looked on with tears in her eyes. Mr. Carson, please, the missus just had surgery yesterday. Her body is too weak. Can't the blood draw weight? Carson's face was a mask of stone. I walked out into the hall and shook my head at Martha, silently telling her to let it go. If Mia didn't get her daily transfusion of my RH-null blood, there was no telling what kind of hell she would raise. I sat down in the medical chair and cleanly slid the 4-needle into my scarred, battered forearm. Watching the dark blood fill the tube, my mind drifted back to the very first time they took it from me. Carter and Mia had been childhood sweethearts, practically inseparable until Mia's family went bankrupt and moved away. They reconnected years later at a high society gala. Some sleazy investors had pressured Mia into drinking until she suffered severe alcohol poisoning and liver distress. She was rushed to the hospital, needing a massive transfusion of a hyper-rare blood type. Carter hadn't hesitated. He dragged me out of my bed while I was still doing my postpartum recovery for Noah and forced me to the hospital. Because Mia and I shared the exact same rare blood. Afterward, he had held my hand, his voice thick with guilt. Did the needle hurt? I'm so sorry, Nora. She was dying. I panicked. I just wasn't thinking. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to swallow that excuse and keep my perfect life. But I couldn't lie to myself anymore. Because while I was unconscious from the blood loss, the protocol had awakened in my mind. That was the day I learned the truth. This world was nothing but a scripted romance novel, and I was the designated villainous ex-wife. My entire existence was plotted to create obstacles that would ultimately prove the true love between the male lead, Carter, and the female lead, Mia. At first, I rebelled. I fought the narrative with everything I had. We were in love, I told myself. We have a beautiful baby. Carter looks at me like I hung the moon. He would never fall for Mia. I hired private investigators. I put GPS trackers on his cars and phones. Everything seemed normal. I was just about to write off the voice as a symptom of postpartum psychosis. And then came the night of Noah's 1-month milestone celebration. I watched the security footage. The two of them, burning with sudden, inexplicable passion, tearing at each other's clothes as they stumbled into a penthouse suite. I drove to the hotel and kicked the door open. Their clothes were strewn across the carpet. The heavy, sick scent of sex filled the room. I lunged, wanting to tear Mia apart with my bare hands, but Carter instantly threw himself over her, shielding her naked body with his own. He fell to his knees, weeping, begging for forgiveness. Someone slipped something in my drink, Nora. I swear to God, I was hallucinating. I thought she was you. Looking at the way his arms were wrapped protectively around Mia, I felt like I had been plunged into an ice bath. We're getting a divorce, I whispered. Hearing that word, Carter threatened to throw himself off the balcony. He brought baby Noah to me, crying, begging me to keep the family together. Back then, Noah was so attached to me. He wasn't the boy he was today. They broke my resolve. We reconciled. But soon came the second divorce. I caught Carter lying. He had promised to send Mia out of the state, to sever all ties. Instead, I found out he was driving to a secluded estate in the Hamptons every weekend. I followed him and found his second family. The third divorce happened when Mia got pregnant. Carter told me he needed to give her a secret wedding in Paris, just to fulfill her dying wish. The fourth divorce was when Mia miscarried and successfully framed me for pushing her down the stairs. In a blind rage, Carter took both my sons, 7-year-old Noah and 2-year-old Sammy, and gave them to Mia to raise as compensation. They were pieces of my own soul. I fought like a feral animal to get them back. In the struggle, I accidentally scratched Mia's face. For that, Carter had his private security drag me into the estate's unheated glass conservatory in the dead of winter. I was locked in, forced to kneel on the freezing marble floor for 3 days and 3 nights without a drop of water. It was Noah who finally picked the lock and sneaked in, bringing me a piece of bread and a bottle of water. Even freezing to death, seeing my son made my chest bloom with warmth. But before I could even take a bite, Noah looked at me with his big, innocent eyes and said, "Mommy, can you please divorce Daddy for real this time?" I froze. Noah? Auntie Mia's birthday wish is to marry Daddy. I want to help her make her wish come true. So, can you leave? Oh, and I asked Sammy. Sammy wants Auntie Mia to be his mommy too. The breath I had been holding for 7 years finally left my lungs. The fight drained out of my bones. That was the exact moment I stopped fighting the plot and truly began to execute my role as the villain. 3. Not long after my blood was taken, 4 of Carter's private security guards marched into my room and escorted me out to the Hamptons estate. I barely stepped through the doorway of the master suite when a heavy crystal tumbler flew at my face. It shattered against my forehead. The pain was blinding. Tears sprang to my eyes as warm blood poured down the side of my face, my knees buckling. My auntie is pregnant. How dare you put poison in the 4 bags? Noah's furious voice echoed in the room, but he suddenly cut himself off, his face going pale as he saw the blood gushing over my eye. Mom. He took a hesitant step toward me. I took a deliberate step back, putting distance between us. Seeing my retreat, Noah stopped dead. His fists clenched at his sides. Stop acting like a victim. I didn't even throw it that hard. On the massive canopy bed, Mia weakly pushed herself up, leaning heavily against Carter's chest. Noah, sweetie, don't speak to your mother that way. It's not polite. The moment the words left her mouth, she broke into a violent fit of coughing, a thin trickle of dark blood leaking from the corner of her lips. Why are you defending her? Carter snapped, his arms tightening around Mia. He barked an order at the private medical team standing by the wall, then turned his gaze to me. It was pure, unadulterated hatred. You aborted our child yesterday, Nora. Are you trying to murder our only living baby today? How did your soul get so utterly black? I finally understood the setup. I wiped the blood and tears from my eyes with the back of my hand. Do you really think I'm stupid enough to poison the blood supply I literally hand over every day? There are cameras in the medical wing, Carter. If you don't believe me, just check the footage. Mia's theatrical, agonizing coughs drowned out my voice. Carter and Noah immediately hovered over her, their faces etched with frantic devotion. Looking at that perfect little family, I knew the truth didn't matter. They would never believe me. I let out a long, exhausted sigh. Fine. If you say I did it, then I did it. Carter let out a cold, vicious laugh. What kind of tone is that? Am I wronging you? He stepped toward me. Carson has managed my family's estates for 30 years. Only the three of you touched that blood. What, are you implying Mia poisoned herself? Do you think everyone in the world is as sick and twisted as you? He pointed toward the doors. Get her outside. Kneel in the courtyard. Don't let her up until she figures out how to confess. Just as the guards grabbed my arms, Martha, who had secretly followed my car in a taxi, rushed into the room. She fell to her knees, grabbing Carter's pant leg, sobbing. Mr. Kensington, please. The missus just had surgery yesterday. If you make her kneel in the freezing cold, it'll kill her. Carter, blind with rage, sneered at the old woman. Surgery? A surgery she chose to have to kill my kid. He looked down at Martha. You want to protect her so badly? Fine. You take her punishment. 30 strikes with the riding crop. My heart stopped. I threw myself in front of Martha. She was the only person in this godforsaken world who treated me with any warmth, looking after me like her own daughter. She was 60 years old. That kind of beating would literally kill her. Are you insane, Carter? I screamed. She's an old woman. If you lay a hand on her, I swear to God I'll call the police. Call them, Carter whispered, his voice dangerously soft. See what happens. He gave a sharp hand signal. 2 massive guards dragged Martha away by her arms. No, let her go. I fought wildly, but Carson pinned my arms behind my back with crushing force. Nora, please, just stop fighting with him, Mia cried out softly, slipping out of bed as if to come pull me away. But before her bare foot even touched the floor, her knees gave out and she collapsed gracefully into Carter's waiting arms, her eyes brimming with fresh tears. Nora, why did you push me? Carter's eyes frantically scanned Mia's body for injuries before he whipped his head toward the guards, his voice a deafening roar. Take my wife down to the cellar. 20 strikes with the leather straps. And I want every single one to draw blood. Every lash felt like my bones were being splintered. I bit through my own lip to keep from screaming, desperate to get back upstairs to save Martha, but I was strapped to a chair, unable to move an inch. By the time it was over, my back was a shredded, agonizing mess. Through the haze of pain, I saw them dragging Martha's unconscious body past the open door. My blood ran cold. Remember today, Carter's voice echoed from the top of the stairs. If you ever lay a finger on me again, you will never see Martha alive. Throw her in the courtyard. Let her freeze. Numbly, dragged by my armpits, I was tossed onto the frost-covered grass of the courtyard. I knelt there for a day and a night.